Hi, it's great to be here, and this afternoon I'm going to talk about automating routine mapping tasks with GDAL, Bash, and Python. As many of these speakers this afternoon, this is way too complicated to cover in 15 minutes, so I have a series of blog posts. The first one's written, the second one's almost done, the third one will be done in a bit, at this URL and also in the Slack channel. And so why do I give these talks about using relatively complex and obscure languages and processes to make maps? Partly it's because I'm very frustrated by the process. My friend RJ explains it as you're learning the magic incantation. But once you get over that hump, it allows you to do things that were either impractical or impossible to do otherwise. So I really think it's worth it. So today, if all you take home is that you can do interesting things, and that after you get over that first initial hump of learning the basics and learning some of these concepts, that I would consider this to be successful. And so you can do things like animate time series, but also more interesting, like if you are trying to figure out the correct level of smoothness to apply before you make contours, you can, instead of doing by hand a couple different versions in QGIS, you can just spin up a script and then make 32 of them and then pick the level that you want. Or you can do something crazy like make your own multi-angle hill shading algorithm if you're not happy with what's out there. So I'm going to go over 3 different approaches: shell scripting, Python to run GDAL on the command line, which is it's doing the exact same thing the shell scripting is doing, but using Python to drive it instead of Bash or ZCell. And don't be afraid if you're not familiar with GDAL yet, the earlier versions, the earlier posts in my blog post series go over that. You do need to get it installed. I recommend using Miniconda and CondaForge, and if you're on Windows, use the Windows subsystem for Linux. And this page is in the presentation. And so we'll get started with shell scripting. That'll be either Bash or Z shell, and it depends on the OS you're in. And for these purposes, they're exactly the same. There are some subtleties that make them a little bit different, but it's really when you get deep into the woods. And in my opinion, Bash is the most straightforward option for automation. You can work out a command sequence on a single file and then directly incorporate those commands into a script. And so my first example is to convert a folder full of JPEGs into georeferenced, remapped geotiffs. And I'm actually going to start even simpler than that and just show you how you would read a folder, look for every file that ends in .jpeg, and then just print it out in the terminal. And in Bash, you do that by something called a loop. And you start that by just saying for, and then the next thing is a variable. And so this file is not the sequence of characters FILE, it's a link that I'm going to fill with more information. And then that's going to be every file in the current folder that ends in .jpeg. And I specify that with an asterisk, and that asterisk is called a wildcard. And so that says any sequence of characters that ends in .jpeg, I'm going to read into this loop. And then every time it finds one of those, it does everything between do and done with that indent. And the indent is actually very important. Again, this is the cryptic magic words that you have to speak. And so echo is the command, and this is just like display what I'm about to get on the command line. And then the $sign says that I'm going to want the contents of this variable file. If it had just been file, it would have just printed file for every time it saw a JPEG. So you'd get like 365 file in the command line. But since it's the name, it displays the file name. And so that's introducing some of these concepts. And then when we build it into the bigger script, you're putting GDAL commands in sequence, and they'll just run in order for every one of these files. And there's one GDAL translate command, and what that is doing is just assigning the georeferencing, because I know they're plat carré, so I just put in the corner points so we know where we are. And then the clever thing here, if you look on that second line, is the input is that file, which, the JPEGs, and then the output, I'm using this % symbol to say strip off the end of the file name and then replace it with WGS84.vrt. And so it's called parameter expansion, and so like you would Google that to find out the specifics of the different options you have. And then next is a GDAL warp, and takes the VRT, and then does the reprojection, saves as a geotiff. And then the third command is just a standard Unix command of remove rm, and that's just clean it up a little bit and demonstrate that this isn't GDAL at all. It's just pure shell scripting. So if you're familiar with Unix, it's something that you've learned, and if you're unfamiliar, it's actually pretty straightforward, and as a way to program is a good intro. So moving on to Python, it's more elegant and more flexible than Bash, it's more powerful than Bash, but it requires a bit more overhead and a bit more background knowledge because you have to have things installed, and you have to learn how to import libraries and things like that. So I'm gonna go over the exact same thing, which is reading a folder full of JPEGs and then printing out the name into a terminal, but show you how you do that in Python instead of in Bash. So we start with with actually something completely different where we're importing a library. So Python is a very lean language, and a lot of the functionality is in these external programs, and they may be included with a base install of Python, like pathlib is, or they might be something completely external, like GDAL. In this case, we're just doing things on the command line that are internal to the computer. So this is a provided Python library, and so it's from pathlib import path. That syntax can change a little bit, but you'll just eventually get used to it. And again, we're doing a loop for file. Again, we're using file as a variable, and then in path, and then parentheses. And so a Python function operates on anything within the parentheses. And so we're just doing the current directory, which is indicated by a dot in Unix. And again, this is all cryptic, magic words, and you sort of just learn it by iteration and doing it over and over. The other concept in here is that dot is contained within apostrophes, and that's indicating that's a string. And a string is any sequence of characters, so letters or numbers or special symbols as well. And then we have this really weird .glob, which is actually just short for global. And a lot of the commands in Python are shortened, and they sound really funny, like glob or kwargs or things like that. But if you expand them, this means global, kwargs means keyword arguments. It makes a bit more sense and is less intimidating. And then we're doing, so what glob does is it says, let's use wildcards just like that standard Unix command line. So just like I used in Bash in the last example. And so star.jpg again. And then instead of echo, we use print and in parentheses, and then file.name. And this .name is actually a special function of that path library, where in the path, what path is doing is it's saying, here is where this file is located in your file system, and you can pull out different parts of that. Like .name will give you the file name. You can do .stem, which will give you the name without the .jpeg. And you can get other things that are giving you parts of the directory. And this doesn't sound that interesting, except Unix and Windows treat paths differently. So if you try to type in all of the path, like user, rob, documents, whatever, in Windows, those will be backslashes. In Unix, they're all forward slashes. And path abstracts that all out, so you don't have to worry about it. And it just makes things simpler. If you Google how to use Python to run things on the command line, often you'll see OS, referring to this library called OS. It's perfectly viable. It's just an older way of doing things that's not quite as elegant and may not be supported as well in the future. So I'd recommend using pathlib and this other library called subprocess. And so here is how you do that file reading, assign the georeferencing, and then do reprojection and save as a geotiff in Python instead of in Bash. We actually have to import a second library. This is called subprocess. And this allows Python to do things outside of itself. Because you're just saying, put these commands into the command line and then run them there instead of running them internally in Python. Exact same start to the loop, because again, we're just looping and then we're doing a sequence of tasks in that loop. And instead of typing out the command we want, you actually have to call this subprocess.run. Again, the parentheses to say do it on everything in here. And things get a little bit complicated because subprocess needs a list. And a list is a specific data type in Python that's similar to either a string, which I've already talked about, or a number. There's things called dictionaries and objects. But a list is just a sequence of discrete chunks of information, and they're in a certain order. They can be other things like strings or numbers or even other lists. So you can have these big nested lists, which can get very messy very quickly. And then every bit of the command that was separated by a space has to get its own list item that's denoted by a comma. So we have all of those separate pieces, and then most of those are strings, but we also have file, which is that variable, and then the file.stem, which is the variable name, the file name with JPEG stripped off. And then we put the extension we want, and then we go on to the next one. And so again, the structure of this is exactly the same as the structure in Bash, but the syntax is a little bit different. And then now the final example is how to use Python and GDAL to actually bring data into Python, manipulate it, and then spit it back out. And so this is a bit more than the two previous examples, but it turns out that most of that more is actually the import and export of the data. The manipulation part is super simple for the example. And the example I'm going to show you is how to take a DEM, apply a Gaussian blur, and then spit it back out as a geotiff. And the reason that this is interesting is because, at least on a Mac, most of the ways to do a Gaussian blur in QGIS are broken. And if you bring it into Photoshop, you lose the georeferencing and you can't do it in like full precision 32-bit floating point data. And so this is why it's really powerful. And you might want it to generalize topography or to smooth things out to make better contours. And so really the tricky part here is that you have to manually read and write all of the metadata. So the things about how many bands you have and how big it is and what's the georeferencing. And so you have to like kind of manually step through, load all these things into variables, and then spit them back out. And then write them back into the file on the export. And that's something that I found really confusing, especially because if you Google this, most of the time you'll actually get a reference to something called Rasterio. And Rasterio is an alternate way of doing this, which is a little bit more elegant and a little bit more aligned with Python, but it's also another set of things you have to learn and another set of syntax and can be intimidating and off-putting. And so I like, at least the first couple times, learn how to do it with pure GDAL and what's called the GDAL Python API, and then move on to Rasterio when you get more comfortable with things and you have things set up. And so here's what that would look like. This is a hill-shaded version of a 1 meter DEM. Blur it to 10 pixels, and then combine it with that custom multi-angle hillshade and contours that I made from the smooth data. And so again, the first of these blog posts, which covers the Bash section and with more examples and more explanations, is at this URL, and then I'll have more coming, and you can ask me questions online or here, or contact me on Blue Sky. Thank you.